Introduction to my achievements in the Three Kingdoms. www.zhaozhuiyuan.com. Crossing the end of the Han Dynasty, I should strive to dominate the world. My name is Zhou Xian. Now is the 5th year of Zhongping. I am from the family of Yingchuan aristocrats. I have the power of Lu Bu. To achieve hegemony, start by killing county magistrates who bully others. https://www.zayashuan.com. Chapter 1. Resurrection in Prison. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, in the 5th year of Zhongping, 188 AD, August. In the prison of Changxi County, Yingchuan County, Yuzhou. Cough, cough. Zhou Xian felt suffocated and coughed up a few uncomfortable sounds. Slowly opening my eyes, I found myself lying straight on the ground. A chill came from below, making him shiver uncontrollably. He suddenly woke up and quickly stood up, looking around. What's going on? On 3 sides here are mottled and old walls, and on one side is a sturdy wooden fence as thick as calves. The ground is scattered with some straw, which is dim and gloomy. The smell of decay fills the air, and the wailing sounds echo far and wide. Is this a prison cell? How could I be in the cell? I am clearly eating hot pot and singing with my friends. A sudden memory struck, causing Zhou Xian's head to ache and crack. He crouched down with his hands tightly covering his head. Oh. He's not dead yet. It's strange, come over here quickly. Upon hearing the sound, Zhou Xian looked up. A person resembling an ancient prison guard stood outside the cell, holding a knife handle at his waist, looking at himself through the wooden fence with a puzzled expression on his face. As the chaotic footsteps sounded, 3 more prison guards with swords around their waists quickly walked over and stood together outside the cell. The 4 prison guards stared straight at Zhou Xian, with an incredible expression on their faces. I just confirmed that he has run out of breath and passed away. How did he come back to life? Could it be that he just held his breath and pretended to be dead, deceiving us? Impossible, I held it for so long. After he stopped struggling and remained motionless, it took me a while to let go. Look at the strangulation mark on his neck, how could he possibly hold his breath and pretend to be dead? That's right, if he had just pretended to be dead, he wouldn't have exposed himself now. Zhou Xian listened quietly to their conversation and finally remembered it through memory. I was just strangled to death by these prison guards with ropes. And what wants his own life is Zhang Kuang, the county magistrate of Changxi County. Zhang Kuang wanted to buy his 3,000 acres of fertile land at a low price of 100 yuan per acre, but he strongly refused. Unexpectedly, he became angry and falsely accused himself of colluding with Huang Zhan, and directly arrested himself in prison. First strangle, and then say that you are afraid of committing suicide by hanging yourself. This is their usual method. Does he have a vengeful soul resurrected and turned into a ghost? A prison guard said, involuntarily taking a few steps back. Upon hearing this, the other prison guards also took 2 steps back, tightly gripping the handle of the knife. Don't be afraid, if it angers Zhang County Lord, even if it's a ghost, he must die again. Another prison guard said. I'll go get the rope. No need, I'm afraid the rope won't strangle him anymore. Let's just cut off his head and make him a headless ghost, even if it's a ghost. The bolder prison guard, who appeared to be the leader, drew his sword, while the other 3 prison guards followed suit. Zhou Xian was secretly shocked in his heart and quickly stepped back. But after taking a few steps back, I reached the wall and had no choice but to move towards the corner. As memories slowly digest, Zhou Xian now has a rough understanding of his own background. Self is now also known as Zhou Xian, with the courtesy name Wen Cheng. He is 20 years old and from Changxi County, Yingchuan, Yuzhou. Grandfather Zhou Yu was once the governor of Changsha and passed away 6 years ago. Father Zhou Ji was once the magistrate of Suiyang County in the Liang dynasty, but he passed away at the age of 10. If my father hadn't died so early, he might have become the governor of 2000 Koku by now. My mother died of illness more than a year after giving birth to herself, and although my father later took concubines, he did not have any more children. Therefore, he is the only child in his family and has no brothers or sisters. I already had a wife, but she passed away 6 months ago due to difficult childbirth. I really don't know what virtue my ancestors have accumulated. In addition, there is an uncle named Zhou Wu who is currently serving as a county magistrate in Shui County, Lu State. In theory, one's own family background may not be considered prestigious, but a small county magistrate in Changxi should have some reservations and dare not bully. However, the county magistrate Zhang Quan is not simple either. He is the cousin of Zhang Rang, a frequent attendant among the favored ministers of the emperor. Zhang Quan dared to bully men and women in Yingchuan and Changxi, relying on Zhang Rang's power. Watching the prison guard open the prison door and charge in with a knife, Zhou Xian was extremely frightened. I have read many books since I was young, but I have never practiced martial arts, even pretending to practice swordsmanship like others. At this moment, facing 4 ferocious prison guards with knives in their hands, Zhou Xian felt that he was about to die just as he had crossed the border. I don't know if I will travel again after this death. It's best to travel back and continue eating hot pot and singing with friends, enjoying the happiness of a peaceful and prosperous era. Hey, wait for a moment, you guys have something to say. Zhou Xian quickly squeezed out a smile and said to the 4 prison guards who were gradually surrounding him, County Magistrate Zhang just wants land. I'll give him not only the 3,000 acres, but also all the 8,000 acres of land in my family. No money at all. I used to be ignorant, but now I understand that not only the land, but also all of my family's money and grain can be handed over to County Magistrate Zhang. I will leave Yingchuan and go to the state of Lu to follow my uncle. Go and report to County Magistrate Zhang quickly. What are you still doing in a daze? Go ahead. The 4 prison guards couldn't help but look at each other, and the attitude of Zhou Xian in front of them, who was willing to die rather than surrender and scold arrogantly, was completely different. Are you telling the truth? Are you willing to give up all 8,000 acres of land to County Magistrate Zhang? A prison guard asked suspiciously. Zhou Xian indeed has 8,000 acres of farmland. Zhang Quan only proposed to buy 3,000 acres with money, considering that his grandfather was once a prefect of 2,000 stones and a family of literati. He had a considerable influence in Changxi and Yingchuan, and did not want to be so extreme. Of course it's true. Farmland and money are both external possessions. I don't bring them with me until I die. As long as County Magistrate Zhang is willing to let me go, I can give him everything I have. Zhou Xian just wants to save his life now. Only with destiny can one have land and money. I think he has already realized that he is really willing to give up his land. Let's report to the county lord and let him make a decision, said a prison guard to the others. Not bad, anyway. The ancestor of the Zhou family was once a prefect, and his uncle is now a county magistrate. If we spare his life, we can have a better life in the future. These prison guards are all from Changxi County, so they naturally understand Zhou Xian's family background. What the county lord wants is the land of the Zhou family, not this kid's life, another prison guard agreed. No way. The prison guard leader suddenly let out a sharp shout, swung his knife in front of him, and said fiercely, anyway, Zhou Xian must die. He had a fierce look in his eyes, full of murderous intent, and stared fiercely at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian, if you had said that earlier, it would have been better. Unfortunately, it's too late now. We have sent someone to report to the county magistrate that they have strangled you. If you don't die now, then we will die. Yes, if you walk out alive, then we are deceiving Zhang County. The end of deceiving Zhang County is not just for us to lose our heads, but for our whole family to follow suit. The other prison guards woke up and thought of the consequences of deceiving Zhang Kuang, staring at Zhou Xian with a determination to kill. Stop talking nonsense, hurry up and chop off his head. Zhou Xian, suffer to death. A prison guard suddenly took a few steps forward, jumped in front of Zhou Xian, raised his knife, and slashed diagonally at Zhou Xian's neck. Chapter 2. Lu Bu's Force. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, bang. Just as the knife in the prison guard's hand was about to fall, Zhou Xian suddenly kicked it out and hit the opponent's chest. The prison guard flew out directly, crashed into the wooden fence, and then fell to the ground, spitting blood from his mouth. After struggling a few times, he remained motionless. Zhou Xian's sudden action stunned the other prison guards. As far as they know, although Zhou Xian is tall and sturdy, he doesn't understand martial arts at all. How could he kick someone away with just one kick? Unable to understand, the three prison guards glared fiercely at Zhou Xian, and the leader shouted, "Let's go up together and kill him." The leader rushed forward first. In fact, not only were these prison guards puzzled, but Zhou Xian himself didn't know what was going on, and he was constantly puzzled. No matter which life it is, I have never used force, have never fought with others, and have never practiced martial arts. But now I can kick people to death with just one kick, is that still me? But at this moment, the leader of the prison guard had already raised his sword to strike, and Zhou Xian didn't have time to think much. Almost instinctively, he suddenly lowered his body to avoid the knife that the other party was cutting at. Then he swung a punch and hit the opponent in the face. The prison guard leader let out a muffled cry, fell to the ground, and the knife fell to the ground. The other two prison guards rushed at the same time and raised their swords to attack Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian quickly squatted down and picked up the knife on the ground, brushing it twice in a row. The two prison guards were immediately bleeding profusely from their stomachs, and one of them even had his intestines exposed. The two of them slowly collapsed. The leader of the prison guard lay on his back, looking at Zhou Xian in terror, secretly wriggling towards the prison gate while trembling for mercy. "Zhou and Zhou Wenqing, don't kill me. We are just following Zhang County and Zhang Kuang's orders to do things. If we don't follow them, he will kill us." Zhou Xian was holding a knife still dripping blood in his hand, standing dumbfounded as if he hadn't heard what the prison guard leader was saying. He was trying hard to recall and vaguely remembered. "I first crossed over to Lvbu in Bingzhou, and then crossed over to Zhou Xian with the same name now. When traveling on Lubu, although it only took less than a minute, upon closer reflection, I seem to understand Lubu's martial arts skills. Whether using a halberd with a knife or a bow and arrow, I seem to know how to use it myself. Could it be that while crossing over on Lvbu, he copied Lvbu's military power? Zhou Xian is not sure if this is the case, and he doesn't have time to think about it now." The prison guard leader took advantage of Zhou Xian's contemplation and quietly climbed to the door of the cell. He suddenly stood up, turned around, and ran out. With a flick of his eyebrows, Zhou Xian quickly took a few steps and chased after the leader of the prison guard, then raised his sword and struck him head-on. Puff! The leader of the prison guard sprayed his brain and blood, and his body collapsed to the ground. Zhou Xian wiped a splash of blood on his face and looked at the four corpses on the ground, as if in a dream. Even in my dreams, I wouldn't have thought that I would kill 4 people in the blink of an eye. Zhou Xian, you. Did you kill them? At this moment, another prison guard heard the commotion and came to check, seeing Zhou Xian holding a knife in his hand. And the 4 prison guards lay motionless on the ground, clearly dead, and quickly asked. This jailer also had some understanding of Zhou Xian and knew that he did not have any force, which is why he was surprised and asked. Zhou Xian suddenly turned his head and stared at the prison guard. Thinking of Zhang Kuang serving as the magistrate of Changxi County for over 2 years, countless people have been tortured and unjustly killed in prison on charges of disorderly security, and these prison guards are undoubtedly Zhang Kuang's accomplices. The previous prison guard was unwilling to collude with Zhang Kuang, either dismissed or killed. As long as there is a slight sense of justice in their hearts, they will not continue to do these things that harm the village for Zhang Kuang. Now that I have the power, I have already killed someone today. Killing one person is killing, and killing 100 people is killing. It's better to kill all these prison guards and then kill Zhang Kuang, which can be considered as killing the people of Changxi. Anyway, if he doesn't die today, Zhang Kuang can't let him go. Zhou Xian thought for a moment and hurriedly walked towards the prison guard with a knife in hand. The prison guard saw that Zhou Xian's eyes were filled with endless killing intent, and he was frightened in his heart. He quickly turned around and ran away, shouting, "Hurry up, Zhou Xian has escaped from prison. Hurry up, Zhou Xian has escaped from prison." The cell where Zhou Xingang was just located is at the innermost. Now as I walked out, I realized that almost all the other cells were filled with people. The prisoners first heard the cries of the prison guards, and then saw Zhou Xian chasing after him with his sword, all gathered around the fence and cheered. "Hero, kill all these bandits who help evil." But soon, all these prisoners quieted down and dared not shout anymore, just silently watching. After hearing the prison guards shout, more than 30 guards all rushed over with knives in their hands, blocking Zhou Xian. A leader shouted to Zhou Xian, if you put down your knife, maybe you can still leave a whole body. Otherwise. Humph. Zhou Xian just snorted, didn't say a word of nonsense, and rushed forward directly. There's nothing to say to these people. The prison guards were unaware of Zhou Xian's strength and thought he was a person with no physical strength but only brute force, so they all raised their swords and met him. Zhou Xian's figure was rapid and he rushed into the crowd of the opponent, wielding his sword and chopping repeatedly. Almost one knife at a time, 5 or 6 people were chopped down in the blink of an eye. Zhou Xian's performance was completely unexpected by these prison guards. They had no idea that Zhou Xian had such force. But they didn't have time to think much at this moment, they just wanted to kill Zhou Xian and then bring their heads to Zhang County Magistrate to receive credit and rewards. Zhou Xian was not sure if he had actually replicated LV Bu's force, and he didn't know if he could defeat so many people. Now it seems that I must have copied the opponent's force when I accidentally pierced LV Bu's body. In the blink of an eye, Zhou Xian swung his sword repeatedly and chopped down 5 or 6 prison guards. Kill! 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 The prisoners in the cell were all filled with anger as they watched Zhou Xinyong fiercely chop and kill the prison guard, shouting in unison. They have a deep hatred towards these prison guards who assisted the tyrant in his tyranny. Some prison guards who were close to the cell fence were grabbed by the prisoners inside, and their hands were torn apart. Some even took the knives from their hands and stabbed them to death from inside. Zhou Xian never stopped, then swung and killed 12 prison guards. And these prison guards couldn't even touch their own fur, had no injuries on their bodies, and their clothes were stained with the blood of the other party. These prison guards usually only know how to bully ordinary people and have little combat power. It can be said that there is not a single innocent person inside, all of them are rogue ruffians who want to rely on Zhang Kuang to gain glory, wealth, and assist the tyrant in his tyranny. Zhou Xian's heart was overjoyed by the killing, and he felt very satisfied with the feeling of being ruthless and killing all the villains. He wore a proud smile on his face. At this moment, there were 13 prison guards standing in front of Zhou Xian. They tightly grasped the knives in their hands, gathered together, and stepped back step by step. Zhou Xian has blocked the way out, so they can only retreat inside. In fact, they were very clear in their hearts that Zhou Xian was not prepared to let them go, and begging for mercy now was of no use. Especially seeing the smug smile on Zhou Xian's face, they knew that only by fighting to the death today could they have a chance to survive. Kill! 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 The prisoners in the cell are still shouting in unison. Zhou Xian remained silent, his performance just now made him increasingly confident. He leapt up and down, waving his knife, and then went to kill the prison guards. In a moment, the 13 prison guards had no resistance and fell into a pool of blood. Inside the prison, the smell of blood and decay mixed together, making people feel nauseous and even more terrifying. Looking at the corpses lying haphazardly on the ground, I searched for the book garden www.zhaozhuiyuan.com and looked at the prisoners who were locked up in prison, standing silently by the fence, watching me. Without much thought, Zhou Xian untied the key from the prison guard leader and opened all the doors of more than 10 cells. All the prisoners were released and gathered together, totaling over 100 people, including many elderly people, women, and children. Zhou Xian looked at them and knew that there were not many real criminals inside, most of whom were kind-hearted people persecuted by Zhang Quan. Zhou Jun, hurry up and leave Yingchuan and Yuzhou. The farther you escape, the better. If you kill these prison guards, Zhang Quan will definitely not let you go. He is the cousin of Zhang Rang, the attendant of Zhongchang. He is occupying the land in Yingchuan for Zhang Rang's sake. An elderly man in his 60s knew Zhou Xian and came forward to persuade him. He has also taken over my only 1,000 acres of farmland. My father was publicly beaten to death by him. My daughter was only 14 years old when he kidnapped her. My home. Everyone poured out their misfortunes. These people who have been locked up in prison are all people with assets in their families. They are poor and have no right to be locked up in prison. They have long been killed. Zhou Xian became increasingly angry as he listened. In his memory, he knew Zhang Quan was being domineering, but he didn't expect him to be even worse than what he knew. Everyone, do you want revenge? Zhou Xian suddenly asked loudly. Everyone suddenly froze, no one answered, and fell silent. Zhou Xian looked at the crowd in confusion and said, since Zhang Quan has done so many evil deeds and harmed the village, why don't we go kill him together and eliminate harm for the people? This. Everyone was shocked and stepped back, keeping a distance from Zhou Xian. Chapter 3. Cutting Grass and Removing Roots. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Zhou Jun, hurry up and leave. Leave this place, escape to Yuzhou, and don't come back. The elderly man, who was about 60 years old, said, Zhang Quan recruited a group of fugitives and had dozens of guards at home. Although you are brave, how can you kill him with your own strength? Don't waste your life. Of course, we also hate Zhang Quan and want him to die, but Zhou Jun should understand that we still have our family and people. If Zhang Quan doesn't die, even if we die, our family can still live. If we go with you to kill Zhang Quan, his cousin, the attendant Zhang Rang, will definitely slaughter our entire family. Zhou Xian understood that they were not afraid of Zhang Quan, but of Zhang Rang. If it were just a county magistrate Zhang Quan, the governor and the prefect would be able to govern him. And Zhang Rang was a trusted middle attendant by the emperor, with immense power. The current emperor even says, Zhang Changshi is my husband, and Zhao Changshi is my mother, which is equivalent to treating Zhang Rang like a father. Not to mention these common people, even the officials and ministers in the court dare not offend him, and offending him will ultimately lead to his death. Since that's the case, I won't force it, it's just that I must kill Zhang Quan. After Zhou Xian finished speaking, he turned around and left, leaving nothing to say to these people. He had already figured out that it shouldn't be a problem to break into the Zhang family alone with his current military strength. A county magistrate who bullies others and does evil deeds will never have someone as powerful as Dian Wei, Su Chu, or Zhang Liao, Su Huang as his guard, right? Besides, it's already August of the 5th year of Zhongping, and Zhang Rang's good days are coming to an end. This is an opportunity to make oneself famous, and it is also a way to add luster to one's mundane life experience. Don't miss it. Even if I can't kill Zhang Kuang, it shouldn't be difficult for me to escape. If we can kill him, we can go to Xuzhou County and ask our uncle to flee together. Just hide until the death of Emperor Ling next year. Zhou Xian, still holding a knife in his hand, strode out of the prison with his head held high and walked towards the Zhang family mansion. The county magistrate should have lived in the county government office. The county government office works in front and stays at home in the back. But after Zhang Kuang arrived at Changxi, he occupied a large mansion and converted it into his own home. He rarely goes to the county government office on weekdays, and usually all official affairs are entrusted to the county officials. He is only responsible for enjoying himself and seizing land to bully women every day. At this moment, Zhang Kuang sat in the hall, holding a beautiful woman in his arms on both sides, with wine and meat on the table in front of him. The county chief and several so-called rangers sat in the side table, with wine and meat on the table in front of them. These so-called rangers are actually some people who rob money and harm the people. They come to seek refuge with Zhang Kuang under the guise of a ranger, just to avoid the pursuit of the government and ensure their safety. Zhang Kuang laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, Zhou Xian is a bad kid. I used money to buy land with him, but he dared not sell it. He's really tired of living. Now that he's dead, all of his Zhou family's 8,000 acres of land are mine, and the Zhou family's mansion is also mine. I want both Changxi and the people of Yingchuan to know that going against me will never have a good outcome." The chief clerk chuckled inwardly and said, "Although Zhou Xian is dead, his uncle Zhou Wu is still here. Zhou Wu is now the county magistrate of Xuzhou County in the state of Lu. If he is not dismissed, there may be future troubles. Ha ha ha, we need to eradicate the root of the grass. Can you still say this? Don't worry, I will write a letter to my cousin, not only to dismiss Zhou Wu from his position, but also to charge him with corruption and collusion with the Yellow Turban, and let him die in the state of Lu." Upon hearing this, the chief clerk felt secretly pleased. "I was originally worried that after Zhang Kuang was transferred, I would face retaliation from Zhou Wu. After all, today I personally led someone to arrest Zhou Xian. If Zhou Wu also dies, then he will have no worries about it." The chief clerk immediately put on a smiling face and flattered, "Ming County Lord has great foresight and foresight. I believe he will soon be appointed as a public minister. I hope that when Ming County Lord occupies a high position, he will not forget us." "Ha ha ha, Mr. Wang, I have been in the Changxi for over 2 years and you have helped me with many things. If I were to be promoted, I would naturally bring you along." Wang Zhushu quickly got up and walked up to Zhang Kuang. He knelt down and kowtowed, "Thank you, Lord Mingxian. Ha ha ha, get up quickly and drink alcohol. The prison is not far from the Zhang family's residence, only separated by 2 streets and alleys." Zhou Xian was holding a knife in his hand, covered in blood, walking on the street straight towards the Zhang family. Pedestrians on the street saw and avoided each other, then discussed behind their backs. Zhou Xian was just arrested today, and the people in the city were unaware of the county magistrate Zhang Kuang forcing him to sell land. "I don't know if he escaped from prison, I thought he was robbed at home, and now I'm asking county magistrate Zhang for help in suppressing the thieves." Some curious bystanders followed from a distance to watch the excitement. Not long after, Zhou Xian walked outside Zhang Kuang's house with a blood-stained knife. There are more than 10 guards with knives outside the Zhang family door. Some of them knew about Zhou Xian's strangulation in prison today, and when they saw him, they quickly shouted, "Be on guard! Be on guard!" With his shout, more than a dozen guards all drew their swords out of their sheaths and rushed forward to surround Zhou Xian. At the same time, someone ran inside and reported to Zhang Kuang. Zhou Xian turned his head and saw that the people surrounding him, like the prison guards in the prison, were all those who assisted the tyrant and killed him without any innocence. Many people are watching in the distance. Zhou Xian, why are you here? A guard asked. Actually, he wanted to ask Zhou Xian why he hasn't died yet. Because Zhang Kuang is here. Zhou Xian only responded lightly, then rose up and took the initiative to attack. He swung his knife left and right, chopping down 4 people in succession. But these guards seemed to be stronger than those prison guards in the prison. After seeing that Zhou Xian was not weak in force, they dared not rush forward and quickly opened the encirclement, waiting for help. Without hesitation, Zhou Xian turned around and killed back, chopping down one of the guards behind him, pretending to escape, attracting other guards to move back, and then turning around and rushing towards the door. Zhaozhuyuan.com. Those guards were indeed deceived by him. I thought he wanted to run away, but I didn't know he was trying to deceive others. The 2 guards blocking the entrance were knocked down by Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian leapt into the door with one swift step and entered the front yard. The other guards closely followed behind. Running down the corridor, I saw more than 10 guards rushing towards me in the front corridor, and there were also guards rushing towards me from the left and right sides. Zhou Xian didn't want to be surrounded and fought by them, so he quickly rushed forward and faced the guards in front of him, chopping and killing. To capture a thief, first capture the king. Only by first killing Zhang Kuang can these people have no intention of fighting again. Otherwise, as long as Zhang Kuang is still here, they will have to work hard. Zhang Kuangjing was drinking with the chief clerk and others in the hall when suddenly a gatekeeper rushed in, startling him. Damn it, get out. Zhang Kuang slammed the wine glass in his hand and angrily cursed. The guard was hit on the head by a wine glass, quickly turned around and walked out the door, standing outside and loudly reporting, Master, Zhou Xian is here, still holding a knife in his hand. Who? Zhou Xian. Are you talking about Zhou Wenqing? It was him, his body stained with blood, holding a knife in his hand, with a fierce aura, right outside the door. Zhang Kuang's face suddenly darkened as he looked at the chief clerk and asked coldly, Wang, didn't the prison just send someone to say that he was dead? The chief clerk hesitated and didn't know how to answer, so he looked at the guard standing outside the door and asked, Are you sure you didn't see the wrong person? Is it really Zhou Xian? Make sure it's him, he's already surrounded by our people, waiting for the homeowner's release. Zhang Kuang burst into laughter and waved his hand, ha ha ha, he's here to seek death on his own. Go and fetch his head for me. Chapter 4. I'll give you 100 million yuan, plus 500 pounds of gold. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. Before the guards could agree to leave, another guard hurried over and stopped outside the door, loudly reporting, Master, Zhou Xian has entered the front yard. What? Zhang Kuang couldn't believe his ears and quickly pushed away the beauty nestled in his arms. He stood up and asked urgently, Did Zhou Xian come in? Are you sure it was Zhou Xian? The wandering knights in the hall quickly got up and rushed out of the door, taking the swords left outside and guarding the door. The guard replied, It's really Zhou Xian. I don't know why he suddenly became so powerful, our people can't stop him at all. Surprisingly, I want to see how powerful he is. Zhang Kuang learned that Zhou Xian had never practiced martial arts before, and saw several rangers guarding outside the door. With no fear in his heart, he walked straight out of the door. At this moment, you can hear the sound of fighting and screams in the front yard. Zhang Kuang stood at the door, with over a dozen guards guarding in front of him, in addition to a few rangers. As the sound approached, his brow furrowed and his face darkened. Those wandering knights also had a nervous expression, tightly holding the weapons in their hands and looking around, afraid that Zhou Xian would suddenly kill them. A guard with a shoulder injury hurriedly ran over and knelt down in front of Zhang Kuang, saying, Master, hurry up, Zhou Xian has come over. A group of foodies, so many people can't even stop a weekly letter. What's the use of me raising you all? Zhang Kuang cursed loudly and stepped forward to kick the reporting guard to the ground. You told me to go. This is the safest place. Where do you want me to go? Mingxian Jun, let's hurry and leave this place, go out through the side door, and go to the county government office. Wang Zhushu advised beside him. There are many officials and soldiers in the county government, and Zhou Xian may not pursue them to the county government. Zhang Kuang was still hesitating, he never believed that Zhou Xian could kill himself alone. I would only believe it if I wanted to see Zhou Xian with my own eyes. But listening to the sound, Zhou Xian is about to come to the backyard. Lord Mingxian. Mr. Wang exclaimed nervously. But at this moment, the sound of the fight suddenly stopped. Zhang Kuang couldn't help but smile, thinking that Zhou Xian had already been captured and killed. He laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, I just said Zhou Xian didn't." However, before he could finish speaking, he saw Zhou Xian covered in blood, holding a knife in his hand, quickly turning out of the corridor and jumping into the backyard. The guards in my own home are chasing after me more than 10 steps away. It turned out that the people who were blocking him earlier were all killed, and the people behind them dared not get close, no wonder they stopped fighting. Seeing Zhang Kuang, Zhou Xian became even angrier and rushed towards him without hesitation. Hurry up, block him. Zhang Kuang waved his hand and shouted urgently. The several rangers guarding him waved their swords and approached. These few people are wearing regular clothes, which is different from those uniformed guards. Zhou Xian expected that these guards were not ordinary, and he dared not underestimate the enemy's carelessness. He watched a fierce-looking strong man beside him strike at them. Puff! That strong man couldn't escape Zhou Xian's strike. Zhou Xian was quite surprised. Although he was powerful, it seemed that the other party was not an ordinary person. He turned around and rushed forward, wielding a knife to fiercely chop at another man in black next to him. Puff! The man in black was immediately stabbed and fell down. Zhou Xian was confused. Are you too powerful yourself or are these people too weak? At the same time, the remaining rangers ran away and fled to the front yard. Don't run, come back. Didn't you say you were 1,000 people slaying 10,000 enemies? Zhang Kuang shouted anxiously. And the dozen or so guards guarding in front of him saw the 2 rangers being killed in the blink of an eye, while the others ran away. Half of the guards followed suit, leaving only 6 or 7 people still guarding in front of Zhang Kuang and Wang Zhushu. The guards who were chasing after Zhou Xian hesitated for a moment and then followed suit one after another. Zhang Kuang was completely panicked, it seemed that Zhou Xian's military might was truly unimaginable. This guy is really good at pretending. If I had known, how could I have provoked him? Misunderstanding, misunderstanding. Zhou Wencheng, if there's anything we need to do, let's sit down and talk slowly. We're all our own people, don't be so confrontational. Zhang Kuang forced a smile on his face and shouted to Zhou Xian. Is there a misunderstanding? You know it in your own heart. Zhou Xian walked towards the other party while speaking. Stop, 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 Zhou Wencheng, I can give you 10 million yuan. Zhang Kuang took a few steps back in panic, wanting to exchange his life for money. 10 million. Is your life only worth so much? Zhou Xian continued to walk towards Zhang Kuang step by step without stopping. Zhang Kuang's 2 guards rushed forward and were casually chopped down by Zhou Xian, both of whom fell to the ground. 50 million. 1 billion. I'll give you 1 billion yuan, plus 500 pounds of gold. If you spare me, I can still make you a county magistrate. How about that? Zhou Xian believed that Zhang Kuang could obtain 100 million yuan and 500 pounds of gold, and also believed that he had the ability to make himself a county magistrate. But none of this is important, what's important is that Zhang Kuang must die now. I don't want anything, I just want you to die. As Zhou Xian spoke, he pressed step by step and chopped down 2 guards. Zhang Kuang, Wang Zhu, and 3 guards have already retreated into the hall, and the beauties in the hall have already fled through the back door. Zhou Xian, do you know who my cousin is? My cousin is Zhang Rang, the most trusted attendant of the emperor. If you dare to kill me, my cousin will definitely exterminate your 9 tribes. Zhang Kuang saw that the softness was not good enough, so he had to resort to the hardness. He hoped that moving out of Zhang Rang would scare Zhou Xian. But Zhou Xian didn't stop and cut down the last 3 guards, walking up to Zhang Kuang. Behind Zhang Kuang is a wall which has already retreated and cannot be retreated. What a constant attendant, a person without seeds, I am not afraid of him. After Zhou Xian finished speaking, he raised his knife and swung it down. Zhang Kuang's neck was bleeding profusely, and he didn't even have time to let out a scream. His body shook and collapsed. The nearby Wang Zhu was stunned and looked at Zhou Xian in terror. Suddenly, he plopped and knelt down. Wencheng, everything I did was Zhang Kuang's will. I had no choice but to do it. It was Zhang Kuang who forced me to do it. Please spare me. Zhou Xian turned his head to stare at the chief clerk and angrily cursed, if it weren't for you people helping the emperor and the tiger, how could Zhang Kuang be so domineering? Cruelting the people. You deserve to die just like him. After finishing speaking, I will no longer give Mr. Wang a chance to speak, and I will cut it with a single blow. Zhou Xian looked at Zhang Kuang's body in front of him, stood for a moment, and then turned around to go out. Zhang Kuang has died, and it's time for him to start running away. However, before fleeing, he still had to bring his uncle's family with him in Shui County, Lu State. Anyway, they are also their only relatives in this world. Zhou Xian went out to the front yard, and the servants and guests of Zhang Kuang's family fled outside one after another, many of whom were still holding money and other items in their hands. Outside the gate, many people gathered outside, looking up and discussing. What are you looking at? Zhang Kuang has already been executed by me. If you want money, go in and get it. Zhou Xian shouted. The onlookers were taken aback for a moment, and then rushed in eagerly. Zhou Xian untied a horse outside the door, got on it, and ran towards his own house. Young master, you have finally returned. Why is there so much blood on your body? Zhang County Magistrate has tortured you. When Zhou Xian returned home, the butler Li Fu saw him covered in blood and approached him with concern. He still doesn't know about Zhou Xian's blood washing of the prison and the Zhang family. This is Zhang Kuang's blood, I killed him. Ah! Li Fu's mouth widened in shock. Anyway, he couldn't believe what Zhou Xian said. He served the Zhou family for over 30 years, and Zhou Xian grew up with him from a young age. Not to mention killing, he couldn't even fight anyone else. How could he possibly kill Zhang Kuang? Hurry up and gather everyone at home, divide all the money in the house, let them leave, and go somewhere else to take shelter first, Zhou Xian instructed. Young master, how can we leave you? I killed Zhang Kuang, and the government will definitely pursue me. If you stay, you will be implicated. Go to the outer prefecture to take shelter first. If Zhang Rang also dies one day, you will come back to watch over my house. Zhou Xian first went to clean the blood stains on his body and changed into a new outfit. At this point, Li Fu had already gathered everyone in the family together. There are not many servants in Zhou Xian's family, including only 16, including Li Fu. I believe you all know that County Magistrate Zhang Kuang wanted to kill me in order to seize my property, and now he has been killed by me. In order to avoid being implicated, please go to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com and leave quickly. Take a temporary shelter in other counties and states, and Li Bo will distribute the money to you. Young master, Uncle Zhou Zhongwei. Li Fu thought of Zhou Wu, who was a county captain in Shui County, and worried. I will go to Xuzhou County first and inform my uncle to leave. I'll go with the young master. No, following me will only slow down the pace. You should quickly divide the money and leave, don't procrastinate. Zhou Xian stopped talking and only took 3 gold cakes and a few hundred copper coins. He hung his sword on his waist and rode a horse. He sat on the horse, carefully glanced at his family, then suddenly turned his head and left with a horse. Zhang Quan died suddenly, and his death was celebrated throughout the city. The streets were filled with people telling each other the news of Zhang Quan's death, and there were rumors of Zhou Xian escaping from prison and bravely killing Zhang Quan. But no one dares to celebrate on the street. The city gate was not closed, and Zhou Xian easily left the city. He urged the horse to leave quickly, preparing to first enter Qinlu to the north, then travel from Qinlu to the state of Liang, and then pass through Peigua to Xuzhou County in the state of Lu. 2 days later, Zhou Xian arrived at the border of Xianyi County in Qinlu. There was nothing to do along the way, no pursuers or obstacles from the levels. If Qinlu wants to set up checkpoints for investigation, he must first report to the court from Yingchuan County, and then the court will order Yenzhou and Qinlu. This time, it won't take 10.5 days to get it done. Zhou Xian has not been worried since he left the territory of Yingchuan. It was noon at this moment, and Zhou Xian was resting his horse on the roadside, letting it eat grass. He also took out dry cakes and water bags himself. Zhou Xian was holding a cake in his hand and was about to bite when he saw a person rushing towards him on the road in the distance. Behind the person, dozens of government soldiers were chasing with knives and spears. Chapter 5. My name is Dian Wei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Zhou Xian secretly lowered his head. I killed Zhang Quan myself, and now that I see the officers and soldiers, although I know they are not here for me, I still need to avoid them if I can. Stop, stop. The officers and soldiers chasing behind shouted, only a dozen steps away from the person, and they were about to catch up. Suddenly, the person running ahead stumbled, seemingly tripped by something and almost fell. He slowed down and the soldiers behind him chased after him, stabbing with spears. Zhou Xian thought that this person would be pierced into a hole, and was worried about it when he saw him dodge and avoid the spear. He grabbed the spear with his back hand and pulled it hard. He pulled the spear directly and kicked the soldier down with another kick. At this moment, soldiers from behind chased and rushed forward to surround the person in groups. But these soldiers seemed to have some reservations and were not surrounded so closely. Hurry up, those who have obtained their first level will be rewarded with 10,000 yuan. Those who do not enter will be punished equally with thieves. An officer on horseback shouted loudly. Zhou Xian looked carefully and saw that the officer had a knife hanging from his waist and a long sword in his hand, which looked quite imposing. With the order, the soldiers had to shout and approach, raising their swords and spears to stab the man. Zhou Xian watched quietly, hesitating whether to go over and help. The current situation is unclear. I don't know who the person being pursued is. Is it a ranger or a thief? If it's a real ranger, it's okay. If it's a bandit who harms the people without any wrongdoing, wouldn't it be that I saved the wrong person? Just as Zhou Xian hesitated and pondered, he saw the man waving his spear and sweeping across, directly sweeping down 6 or 7 soldiers approaching him. Then he thrust a spear, stabbed one down, and lifted his leg to kick over another. Zhou Xian couldn't help but be surprised, seeing that this military force is not weak at all. Now is the time to recruit heroes. Zhou Xian thought of this and didn't think much anymore. He immediately threw down the dry cake and water bag in his hand, jumped onto his horse, and galloped over. The officer riding on the horse noticed Zhou Xian's galloping horse and cursed in disgust, looking for death. He picked up his long sword and urged the horse to greet Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian drew his sword and stared at the long sword in the officer's hand, galloping towards him. Who? As the two horses were about to intersect, the officer's long sword swung towards Zhou Xian horizontally, but the movement appeared somewhat clumsy and the speed of the sword was not fast. Using a sword to block a long sword is definitely not enough. Zhou Xian grabbed the bridle of the horse with one hand and the sword with the other. His body quickly fell to the left, his right foot hooked onto the horse's back, and he leaned sideways on the horse's belly, avoiding the opponent's long sword. At the same time, the long sword in his hand pierced and hit the officer's abdomen. Ah! With a painful cry, the officer fell off his horse and the long sword fell to the ground. Zhou Xian returned to his horse and sat firmly, urging the horse to rush towards the besieging soldiers. At this moment, the besieged person stabbed down 5 more soldiers. The soldiers saw the officer being stabbed and dismounted, knowing that both of them were highly armed individuals who dared not fight anymore. A few of them ran first, while the others quickly followed and fled. The person watched as the soldiers fled, but did not pursue them. Looking back at Zhou Xian, he arched his hand and said, "Thank you very much for your help." He threw away the spear in his hand, walked straight to the officer's body, picked up the long sword, held it in his hand, glanced at the officer lying on the ground, and suddenly raised his sword to cut it off. The officer was not originally dead, but had injuries on his body. Even when he saw the man wielding his sword and attacking, he couldn't resist and dodged, and his head was chopped off. "Dare to steal my long sword, spit." The man spat at the officer's body, kicked his head away, and then went to grab the horse. "My name is Zhou Xian, I don't know how to address you." Zhou Xian looked at in surprise and bowed back. "My name is Dian Wei." "Are you Dian Wei?" Zhou Xian couldn't help but be overjoyed. "I was originally thinking about whether to go to Jiwu to try my luck and see if I could find Dian Wei, but I didn't expect to encounter him here. I even unintentionally helped the other party." At this moment, upon closer inspection, Dian Wei had a burly physique and did not need to engage in combat. Just a glance revealed that the opponent was very strong. Moreover, considering Dian Wei's age, he should only be a few years older than himself. "I am Dian Wei, do you know me?" Dian Wei looked at Zhou Xian and asked in confusion. Zhou Xian shook his head slightly and said, "I don't know, but I have heard about you. Are you saying that I assassinated Li Yong 6 months ago? Are you from Chenlu or Liang?" Dian Wei went to Suiyang in the state of Liang to assassinate Li Yong in order to support the Lu family in Chenlu Xiangyi. He thought the person who knew about this should be someone from around here. "I'm from Yingchuan." Zhou Xian glanced at the corpses of the soldiers on the ground. "It's not advisable to stay here for a long time. Let's talk as we walk." "Okay." Dian Wei mounted his horse, holding a long sword in his hand. Zhou Xian remembers that the great double halberd and long knife, which were originally his weapons, were sent by Dian Wei Shan. "Where does Dianjuan want to go?" Zhou Xian asked. Dian Wei thought for a moment and shook his head, saying, "I'm not sure yet, maybe I'll go to Xuzhou. I was originally hiding in Xiangyi, but the government found out. Today, I was drinking alcohol, but they stole my long sword first, and that's why I was chased here. I should know that the person I killed before, Li Yong, was a magistrate of Fuqian and a high-ranking official in the imperial court. The government will definitely try to arrest me. If I cannot hide in Xuzhou, I will go to Yuzhou and Liaodong." "Ha ha ha." Zhou Xian suddenly burst out laughing, and Dian Wei turned his head to look at him in confusion. "Speaking of which, I am similar to Dianjuan. To be honest with Dianjuan, I am now just like you, a fugitive who has been arrested by the government. And like you, I also killed a county magistrate." Upon hearing that the other party had also killed the county magistrate, Dian Wei quickly asked, "Where did you kill the county magistrate under your feet?" "Yingchuan Changshi County Magistrate." Zhou Xian walked to the resting place just now, jumped off the horse and took dry cakes and water bags. After getting on the horse, he continued to say. I was originally from Changxi. The Changxi County magistrate was cruel and domineering, running rampant in the village, killing and seizing farmland, and committing all kinds of evil deeds. He wanted to seize my family's 3,000 acres of farmland, but I refused. After that, he tied me up in prison on the charge of colluding with the Yellow Turban and wanted to strangle me first. Besides, I committed suicide in fear of guilt, and then I could seize my family's farmland. Dian Wei said, just now, I stabbed the officer with just one sword, indicating my extraordinary military strength. So, I escaped from prison and went to kill the county magistrate. I first killed all the prison guards in the prison, and then broke into the county magistrate's house alone. Dian Jun was unaware that the county magistrate of Changxi was the cousin of Zhang Rang, the attendant of the Zhongchang, and there were over 100 guards at home. I used a knife to kill and blood wash the Zhang family, which can be considered as a major harm to the people of Changxi. After listening, Dian Wei remained silent for a long time before saying, I never imagined that I had 3,000 acres of land in my family, let alone that the county magistrate of Changxi was Zhang Rang's cousin, and I dared to invade and kill alone. I admire my courage. What about Zhang Rang's cousin? If it were Dian Jun, he would still be able to fight alone. Zhou Xian said confidently, Dian Jun assassinated Li Yong not for himself, but for revenge. Such a righteous act is even more admirable. Dian Wei sat on a horse with his chest straightened and looked for the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com, saying with a stern expression, what can be feared if a man is born a man? My family has been poor for generations, and our land is less than 100 acres. But since I was young, I have hated those who bully others. Even if it's a county magistrate, I can kill even the prefect. Zhou Xian felt a hidden worry in his heart. It seems that Dian Wei is still a resentful young man who hates wealth and evil. With so much land and wealth in my own family, perhaps my ancestors were not some honest people, and they also became the object of Dian Wei's hatred, right? But on second thought, it was entirely because I was overthinking. Tian Duo and Qian Duo were things from the past, but now I am a fugitive and can be said to have nothing. Besides, he killed the county magistrate himself. How could Dian Wei hate him? In fact, my family has a total of 8,000 acres of farmland, and the county magistrate only took 3,000 acres. That's because my grandfather was once the governor of Changsha, my father was once the magistrate of Suiyang County, and my uncle is now the county captain of Shui County. I'm going to rush to Shui County now to ask my uncle to leave and take refuge. Zhou Xian truthfully explained the situation. I didn't expect such a family background under my feet. Dian Wei is disrespectful. Dian Wei immediately bowed to Zhou Xian. In fact, what Dian Wei admires is not Zhou Xian's family background, but his family background. He even dares to kill the county magistrate and is the cousin of Zhang Rang, the attendant of Zhongchang. In this way, his family is considered ruined and has no future. With Dian Wei's ability, of course, he did not know the changes that would happen in the world. The emperor is still so young today, and Zhang Rang is so favored. If nothing unexpected happens, Zhang Rang's power will only increase. Since Dian Jun doesn't know where to go, why don't you walk with me? With our joint efforts, even if you encounter officers and soldiers, you don't have to be afraid. What does Dian Jun think? Zhou Xian finally said what he wanted to say the most. Chapter 6. Dian Wei visits the Lord. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. Dian Wei hesitated noticeably and tilted his head to look at Zhou Xian before answering for a long time. Since you and I have all killed county magistrates, it would be better to travel together as fugitives. But where do you want to go if you're not satisfied? The nature of the world has our destination. First, go to Shui County in the state of Lu to meet my uncle, and then make a decision without delay. The previous incident happened suddenly, and Zhou Xian has not yet figured out how to take the future path. I have strong military skills and a strong interest in the history of the three kingdoms in my past life. I can be considered to have a better understanding of the history of the late Han dynasty and the three kingdoms, and I still hold the status of a scholar in Yingchuan, Yuzhou. If you just want to assist others in the struggle for hegemony, whether it's assisting Yuan Shao, Cao Cao, or Liu Bei, you should all be highly valued. The future is likely to be under one person and over 10,000 people. Assisting others on this road would be very easy, as long as you wait for Yuan Shao in Bohai County, Xuzhou now, or wait for Cao Cao in Qiao County, Peigua. Otherwise, you can go to Qingzhou Plain and wait for Liu Bei. But Zhou Xian was very resistant to the idea of assisting others in his heart. He always felt that even if one person was below 10,000 people, it would still be unpredictable. Perhaps one day, he would be suspected by the Lord or framed by someone else's slander and would be dealt with a single blow. In a faint moment, Zhou Xian always thought that he could also compete and become the boss. Although one's family background and identity may not be considered very good, no one from the ancestors ascended to the throne and did not have the support of officials and disciples from the government. But no matter what, my grandfather used to be a 2,000-stone prefect, a noble family. Having a strong military presence and a good understanding of historical development and current figures are both significant advantages. Especially now when encountering Dian Wei, if you can get his assistance, it will be easier for you to start. It's also possible, Dian Wei replied. At the moment when Dian Wei agreed to go with him, Zhou Xian secretly decided in his heart that no matter what, he would give it a try. Zhou Chandao said, Jiwu and Suiyang can't go anymore. Let's take a detour north and then enter the state of Lu through economic Yin and Shanyang. Chenlu Jiwu is the hometown of Dian Wei, and Suiyang in the state of Liang is the place of Li Yong. The officials and soldiers of these two counties will easily notice Dian Wei. Although it is not difficult to escape with the force of the two of them, they still need to avoid. The most important thing at present is to rush to Shui County as soon as possible to notify my uncle to leave. If he is entangled and delayed by the officers and soldiers, it will delay time. Dian Wei is still a key criminal being pursued by these two counties. It is feared that only when Emperor Ling dies and Emperor Xian ascends to the throne will there be a decree of amnesty for the world, exempting him from punishment and freedom. Only by pardoning the world can Dian Wei return home and enlist as Zhang Miao's soldier in Jiwu County. The two of them stopped talking and galloped on horseback. First, head north to Donghun County, then south to Dingtao in Jiyin, then to Changyi in Shanyang, and finally to the border of Gaoping County. It is already 3 days later, and this place is not far from Shui County in the state of Lu. It can be reached in half a day. At noon, Zhou Xian and Dian Wei dismounted and rested for a while. The two of them were nibbling on dry food while the two horses were grazing beside them. Zhou Xian is preparing to arrive in Shui County before dark and go to the city to see his uncle. Under my feet. Just as Dian Wei spoke, he was interrupted by Zhou Xian raising his hand. Hey, Dianjuan, I told you that my courtesy name is Wen Cheng, just call me Wen Cheng. Dian Wei smiled somewhat embarrassed. He, to be honest. Wen Cheng, I am a rough country person who doesn't know a few words and doesn't understand etiquette very well. But I know that when you see someone, you should call them Zhu Xia, so. By the way, I don't call you Zhu Xia, and don't always call me Dian Jun. You call me that, I always feel uncomfortable, he. Zhou Xian followed with a smile and said, okay, but I don't know how to address Dianjuan by his courtesy name. I don't have Chinese characters. As farmers in our countryside, we don't need to use Chinese characters, we just use our nicknames. Dianjun is so brave and valiant, and it's hard to say that he will become a general or colonel in such a chaotic era. How could he not have written characters? Can I also have a script? Wen Cheng, you read a lot, why don't you help me create a script? Zhou Xian had this intention, and in the future, he might have to spend time with Dian Wei day and night. The other person didn't have a written name, making it inconvenient to address them. It's definitely not appropriate to call by name, it's not good to always call Yuan. But Zhou Xian actually doesn't quite understand how to start writing. Especially the name Dian Wei is not easy to name. After thinking for a while, Zhou Xian couldn't think of anything satisfactory and could only say, how about using the character Xuzhou instead of being a brave and heroic emperor? Xuzhou. Dian Zixing. Hehe, I think it works. Dian Wei was very satisfied with Zhou Xinqi's calligraphy. Seeing the other party satisfied, Zhou Xian was also relieved in his heart. Wencheng, why didn't you just leave after killing the prison guard that day and go to the Zhang family to kill the county magistrate Zhang Quan? Don't you know that he is the cousin of Zhang Rang, a regular attendant in the court? Dian Wei asked in confusion. Zhou Xian had already explained in detail to Dian Wei what had happened in Changxi, Yingchuan on the way. Do you think I shouldn't have killed Zhang Quan? Zhou Xian asked in response. No, if you don't kill Zhang Quan, the trouble is with you alone. Perhaps it won't affect your uncle. And if you kill Zhang Quan, your family will be affected. Didn't you think of this at the time? Xuzhou, why did you go kill Li Yong? Zhou Xian did not answer directly and asked again. Dian Wei angrily said, Li Yong bullies others with his might. I killed him to eliminate harm for the people. I killed Zhang Quan to eliminate harm for the people. Zhou Xian said lightly. Dian Wei fell silent and stared straight at Zhou Xian. After a long time, he suddenly looked very serious and said, Wencheng, why don't we go and kill all the evil county magistrates who bully people together? How about that? If that's the case, what's the difference between us and rebellion? Zhou Xian's expression was calm, but in fact, there were already waves in his heart. He felt Dian Wei's passion and knew that he was a person who was not afraid of death. At the same time, I also understand that such people are easier to use for themselves. Dian Wei didn't hesitate to say, rebellion is rebellion. What can a great man fear? Is it solely up to the two of us to rebel? Dian Wei stood up and looked for the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com, saying seriously, if you lead the way, there will definitely be many people following you. Dian Wei is also willing to follow, even if we die without regret. Zhou Xian also stood up and stared at Dian Wei with a serious expression, saying seriously, are you really willing to worship me as the Lord? Unexpectedly, Dian Wei immediately knelt down and said, Dian Wei pays respects to the Lord. Hey, don't worry, get up first. I haven't finished speaking yet. Zhou Xian wanted to lift Dian Wei up, but the other party refused to do so. If you have anything to say, just say it. Zhou Xian no longer forcefully supported the other party and let go of his hand. Xuzhou, do you think our rebellion will be easy to succeed? After hesitating for a moment, Dian Wei replied, of course it's not easy, and we may even die soon. But as long as we can kill 10 or 20 evil county magistrates and eliminate harm to the people, then we will be successful. Our lives are all gone, can this also be considered a success? So what do you want to do? Zhou Xian hesitated slightly, then stared at Dian Wei closely, feeling the sincerity and eagerness in his eyes. I can go with you to kill all the evil county magistrates and even the evil prefects in the world. But we need to have a plan and not just act on impulse. If you want to kill them all, just kill them all, leave none behind, and we also need to save our lives. So it's definitely not possible with our own strength, we must have more heroes and martyrs to help. To obtain more heroic and righteous helpers, we must become officials. With official positions, it is easy to recruit talents and use them for us. Dian Wei was confused and said, being an official. We are all fugitives, can we be an official? Zhou Xian confidently said, what's the difficulty of this? If you believe me, just listen to me. If you don't believe me, you can go and stay as you please. Chapter 7. Your uncle shouldn't be a bad official. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, believe it, of course I do. Dian Wei said and bowed again. Dian Wei pays respects to the Lord. Zhou Xian was secretly happy in his heart, but he couldn't believe the scene before him. Did he easily conquer Dian Wei? Are you really willing to worship me as your Lord? Will you not betray or repent? Dian Wei's expression was solemn and he swore confidently, perhaps Dian Wei cannot do anything else, but since he has worshipped the Lord today, he will definitely not repent, let alone betray. Please rest assured, Lord. Zixiong, get up. Zhou Xian was overjoyed and quickly helped Dian Wei up. For Dian Wei's loyalty, Zhou Xian naturally trusts that no one can betray him. Hurry up and eat some pancakes. We need to rush to Shui County and enter the city before it gets dark. No. Dian Wei appeared very happy. He recognized someone else as his lord, but it seemed like he had become someone else's lord himself. He quickly finished a few large pancakes. He has a large appetite, and Zhou Xian bought a lot of dry cakes on the way. Now that he is close to Shui County, even if he eats all the cakes, he doesn't have to worry about going hungry. When we arrive in Shui County, we will let Dian Wei have a good meal. After finishing their meal, the two continued on their journey, heading west to Fan County in the state of Lu. They then turned south from Fan County and finally arrived outside Shui County at sunset. Watching the city gate still open, Zhou Xian felt relieved. After entering the city and asking the pedestrians on the street, Zhou Xian and Dian Wei arrived at the door of the county magistrate Zhou Wu's house. This is a considerable mansion, with the gate tightly closed and no one on duty outside. Isn't your uncle the county magistrate? Why isn't there a guard outside the door? Dian Wei felt strange and asked. Zhou Xian didn't quite understand. In theory, uncle couldn't afford to keep guards. As a county magistrate, no matter what, he had to have 2 guards outside the door to show his authority. The state of Lu is a country of etiquette, with few bandits. His uncle is also kind and has not formed any enemies with anyone, so he does not need protection, Zhou Xian replied casually. Previously, Li Yong resigned from his position and stayed at home, but he was guarding the entire court. According to the Lord, Zhang Quang, the magistrate of Changxi County, had even more than 100 guards. Therefore, it seems that if the Lord's uncle does not have guards, he should not be a bad official. If it's a bad official, do you still want to kill him? Zhou Xian is a bit speechless. Of course not a bad official. My uncle has a good understanding of martial arts and always thinks for the poor people. He often gives alms and relief. Now, except for Zhang Rang, no one wants to harm him. In Zhou Xian's memory, his uncle Zhou Wu likes to practice martial arts, so he became a county magistrate. As for how to use force, it's not clear. We need to find an opportunity to try it out. Dong dong dong. Zhou Xian came forward and knocked on the door. Questions immediately came from inside. Who is it? Zhou Xian, Wen Cheng. Zhou Xian. Who are you? With the sound, the door opened and a man in his 50s, dressed as a butler, appeared in front of Zhou Xian. Is this the home of County Captain Zhou Zhongwei? Zhou Xian asked. Exactly, are you from Yingchuan? The butler saw that Zhou Xian was dusty and surnamed Zhou, with Dian Wei leading 2 horses behind him. He immediately thought that the person who arrived might be the family of County Captain Zhou Wu. But seeing the long sword that Dian Wei was immediately hanging, it still made his pupils shrink, making him slightly nervous. Zhou Xian smiled and said, Captain Zhou is my uncle. Wait here for a moment, I'll go in and report. The butler quickly turned around and entered, but did not close the door. Dian Wei looked at it and felt secretly pleased. It seemed that the Lord was right. His uncle was not a bad official. If it's a bad official, the butler should close the door first before leaving. But Zhou Xian didn't have so many ideas. After a moment, a man in his 30s, slightly thin in stature, with a small tuft of short beard under his chin and a smile on his face, hurriedly walked over, followed closely by the butler. Wencheng, it's really you. How did you come to the state of Lu? Zhou Wu walked straight to Zhou Xian and looked at him with joy. He has been in office in Shui County for 2 years and has not returned to Yingchuan for 2 years. Uncle. Zhou Xian bowed and bowed. Dian Wei quickly followed suit and bowed to Zhou Wu. Zhou Wu glanced at Dian Wei behind Zhou Xian, especially noticing the long sword hanging immediately. Come on, get inside quickly. The butler ordered his servant to lead the horse away, and Zhou Wu pulled Zhou Xian inside, while Dian Wei closely followed behind. Entering the room, Zhou Wu turned his head to look at Zhou Xian and asked seriously, "Is something wrong?" Zhou Xian was puzzled and said, "Uncle saw it. You suddenly come here, and both of you are carrying weapons. I remember you don't even know martial arts, why are you carrying knives?" Zhou Xian didn't know how to answer for a moment. The blood stains on your body haven't been washed away, have you been injured? Zhou Wu pointed to a few bloodstains on Zhou Xian's clothes. No, uncle, I killed Zhang Quang. He is the cousin of our Changxi County magistrate and Zhongchang attendant Zhang Rang. Zhou Xian said directly. Ah. As expected by Zhou Xian, upon hearing this news, Zhou Wu was so shocked that he widened his eyes and remained silent for a long time. Zhou Wu looked at Dian Wei behind Zhou Xian. Did this brave warrior help you kill him? Dian Wei quickly denied, it's not me. I killed the magistrate of Fuqian County in Wu County, and the magistrate of Changxi County was killed by the Lord himself. Zhou Wu was once again shocked. How these two people in front of me killed each other were county magistrates. Indeed, birds of a feather flock together, and people flock together. Also, this strong man actually called Zhou Xian the Lord. Did you kill him? Zhou Wu stared at Zhou Xian with a look of disbelief on his face. Wencheng, as far as I know, there are many guards in Zhang Quang's family, and you don't understand martial arts. How can you kill Zhang Quang? Also, although Zhang Quang is rampant and has committed many evil deeds, he has never had any grudges against our Zhou family. Why do you want to kill him? He tried to force me to buy 3,000 acres of farmland at a low price of 100 yuan per acre, but I refused. Zhou Xian explained in detail what had happened in Changxi, but did not say that he had been strangled. He went to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com and only said that when he was strangled, he fought back and killed the prison guard. Zhou Wu looked at Zhou Xian incredulously. According to the other party's account, Zhou Xian was able to kill 30 or 40 prison guards alone, and also broke into the Zhang family to kill so many guards and Zhang Quang. This courage and force were unimaginable. Is the person in front of me really my nephew Zhou Xian? Wencheng, are you telling the truth? Zhou Wu still didn't dare to believe it, thinking that these things were possibly done by the strong men brought by Zhou Xian. Uncle, everything I said is true. I came to Shui County to ask you to leave quickly. Zhang Quang is Zhang Rang's cousin, and Zhang Rang is deeply favored by the emperor. He will definitely cause you trouble. But I remember you didn't like practicing martial arts since you were young. I wanted to teach you, but you always refused to learn. Why have you suddenly become so powerful now? Regarding this point, Zhou Xian found it difficult to explain clearly and had to ask, Uncle, haven't we met in 2 years? Zhou Wu nodded. That's it. Anyway, I'll talk to you about this matter in the future. Go pack your things now and we'll leave at dawn. Zhou Wu began to walk slowly in front of Zhou Xian, and after a while, he whispered, "You killed Zhang Quan. You must leave now, it's just where we should go. I need to think carefully about it." For Zhou Xian is only 20 years old now. Although it is unclear how he killed Zhang Quan, he is the only elder in the family and should make the decision himself. Xian took the conversation and said, "Uncle, I've already thought of it. Let's go to Xuzhou." Xuzhou. Zhou stopped and looked at Xian in confusion. Xian firmly said, "Yes, if you go to Donghai, Xuzhou, does your uncle know about Zang Ba in Mount Taishan?" Chapter 8. There are 3 instances of unfilial piety, and having no offspring is the greatest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Mount Taishan Zang Ba. Never heard of him. After a moment of contemplation, Zhou shook his head and said, "Zhou Tongdao. As far as I know, Zang Ba was from Huaxian County, Mount Taishan. His father was a pussy in the middle of the county. The Mount Taishan prefecture chief wanted to commit a private murder. His father refused to listen to the law, so the prefecture chief was angry and ordered his father to be sent to the county government. At that time, there were more than 100 escorts, but Zang Ba was only 18 years old. He led dozens of people to rob and save his father in the mountains. Now he is hiding in the East Sea of Xuzhou. If we were to throw, we could either join them or evade the government's pursuit. Xian wants to go to Qingzhou, Jizhou, or Yuzhou. But Qingzhou is too chaotic, the people are fleeing, Yuzhou is too far, the road is difficult to travel, and Jizhou is also a place that heroes must compete for. I am sure I cannot compete with Yuan Shao. At present, going to Donghai in Xuzhou with Zang Ba is a better choice. Ling Emperor is not dead, Zhang Rang is still here, and he still needs to evade the pursuit of the government. Zang Ba himself is also a fugitive, with people and horses in his hands. He is not afraid of the government and can remain safe with him. Most importantly, if you can win over Zang Ba and get Mount Taishan people, it will be easier for you to start yourself. This person's father is so upright. This Zang Ba is only 18 years old and dares to rob his father. Lord, let's go to the East China Sea. Dian heard that Zang Ba's father would rather offend the prefect than commit murder privately, and couldn't help but admire him in his heart. He quickly said. After listening to Xian's words, Zhou nodded slightly. As Xian said, it is indeed feasible to be with Zang Ba. Everyone is a fugitive, and gathering together can also take care of each other. However, Shui County, where he is located, borders the East Sea in Xuzhou, and has never heard of this matter. Zhou Xinyuan is in Yingchuan, how did he know? Wen Cheng, how did you know about Zang Ba's incident? Zhou asked out the doubts in his heart. When I was in Yingchuan, I heard a Xuzhou merchant talk about it, Xian replied. Wen Cheng, I haven't seen you for 2 years. You've changed so much. In the past, you only focused on studying and didn't care about the world. Unexpectedly, now you not only have strong military strength, but also a lot of knowledge. Ha ha ha. It seems that you have really grown up. Zhou looked at Xian with satisfaction and said, although the governor of Xuzhou, Ba only, is in the East China Sea, he hates the eunuchs in the court. We can go to the East China Sea to hide without any worries. Gollum. Dian Wei's stomach was so hungry that it made a rumbling sound. Upon hearing this, Xian also felt very hungry. Uncle, hurry up and tidy up the house. Let someone make us some food, make more. We are in a hurry to make our way, and we are already starving. Okay, there's wine and meat, you guys wait. Zhou quickly went out, instructing the cook to cook quickly, and then arranging for his family and servants to tidy up their things. Not long after, the servant brought food, wine and meat, several large bowls, and placed them in front of Xian and Dian Wei. Smelling the fragrant meat flavor, Dian Wei's saliva was about to flow out. He picked up the wine and was about to pour it out. Suddenly, he remembered that he had to hurry early tomorrow morning. He stopped pouring the wine and asked Zhou Xian, "Lord, can we drink?" Zhou Xian was secretly pleased that Dian Wei had even asked him this, indicating that the other party really treated him as a lord. "Drink some, but not too much." "No." Dian Wei readily agreed and poured himself wine, while also pouring a glass for Zhou Xian. The two of them disregarded it and started eating big. Having had enough to drink and eat, Zhou Xian asked Dian Wei to rest first, while he and his uncle Zhou Wu closed the door in the room to talk. Uncle and nephew have not seen each other for 2 years, and the Zhou family only has them as the closest family members. "Wencheng, I heard about your wife's difficult childbirth and death. Uncle really feels sorry for you." Zhou Wu lightly patted Zhou Xian's shoulder and sighed, "Oh my, I really don't know what's wrong with our Zhou family. Your parents passed away early, and now your wife is like this, and I don't have any children." Zhou Xian seemed to want to ask something, but he hesitated to speak. "Wencheng, I know what you're asking. I don't mean I don't marry wives and concubines. I have 1 wife and 3 concubines now, and I almost have sex with them every day. Why don't I have the courage? Actually, it's not that I'm not lacking in character, maybe it's because our ancestors of the Zhou family suffered a loss of virtue. I shouldn't have said that, but it's a fact." Zhou Wu continued, "I searched around for famous doctors and heard that Hua Tuo from Pegua had good medical skills. I also went to see him, but without exception, they all said that I will never have an heir in this life, no matter how much I try to win. I have also taken a lot of medicine. I have given up pursuing offspring now and enjoy myself every day. Of course, I often treat the relief people well and hope to accumulate virtue in exchange for 1.5 offspring. Wencheng, why didn't you take a concubine after your wife passed away?" Zhou Wu stared at Zhou Xian and asked. Zhou Xian hesitated and didn't know how to answer. "Uncle, I'm only 20 years old, isn't this urgent? How can we not be in a hurry? Nowadays, the incense of the Zhou family can only be passed down through you. There are 3 ways to be unfilial, and having no offspring is great. I am already unfilial, should you also be unfilial? No, when we arrive in Xuzhou, I will marry you and take concubines as soon as possible. You must give birth to several sons for our Zhou family." Zhou Wu's tone was irrefutable, and Zhou Xian didn't want to argue either. In fact, the original Zhou Xian has already died. My current self is another weekly letter. Of course, the blood flowing from my body at this moment is still from the Zhou family. It can only be said that our ancestors must have suffered a great loss this week. By the way, why does Dian Wei's son Xiong call you Lord? Zhou Wu remembered Dian Wei's title to Zhou Xian and asked in confusion. Zhou Xian had no choice but to mention Dian Wei's intention to rebel and then worship the Lord. Rebellion. Thank you for daring to think. Is this something we can do? It's a disaster of extermination. No, absolutely no. Zhou Wu strongly opposed it. Perhaps it is because Zhou Xian has not yet passed on any offspring for the Zhou family. Zhaozuiyuan.com, in the first year of Zhongping, hundreds of thousands of people from the 36th side of the Yellow Turban Rebellion rebelled at the same time, and the result was that they were all destroyed. There were also rebels from all over the country, which one could succeed and live for a long time. Maybe even before you rebelled, the court had already sent strong soldiers to eliminate you. Absolutely not. Zhou Xian explained, "Uncle, nowadays the eunuchs of the court officials are fighting for power, local tyrants are invading the fields and seizing land, and the people of the countryside are complaining and selling their children and abandoning their daughters. The emperor is unconscious, and only by listening to his ministers can the world be in chaos and the people rebel. Of course, I am not going to attack and seize counties like them, and it is not considered a rebellion. Uncle should know that the world is in chaos and bandits are rising. If we are single and weak, how can we protect our families? So we must recruit righteous talents, gather together, seize the opportunity to occupy a state or county, and then we can dominate the world. Zhou Wu widened his eyes in disbelief as he looked at Zhou Xian, unable to believe that these words had come from his nephew's mouth. If it weren't for what he had seen and heard with his own eyes and ears, he would never have believed that Zhou Xian would have said these words. Wen Cheng, who have you been dating in the past 2 years? How could you have such thoughts? You used to focus solely on reading books about sages and not hearing anything outside the window. Uncle, the world is changing, and people are also changing. That's why I secretly practice martial arts and explore the world's affairs. Zhou Xian took this opportunity to reconcile his strong military prowess and understanding of people around the world. Zhou Wu walked to the window and stared out at the night sky, standing there for a long time. He suddenly turned around and walked up to Zhou Xian, saying solemnly, Wen Cheng, a man should have great ambitions, and in times of chaos, he should indeed make some progress. Since you have this idea, I will fully support you. However, you must promise me one thing first. Chapter 9. Zang Ba's Surprise. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, what's up? Zhou Xian asked hastily. Zhou Wu didn't answer immediately. He looked at Zhou Xian for a long time before saying earnestly, Wen Cheng, your parents are no longer here, and I am your uncle. It is necessary to care about your marriage matters, so. If I find a suitable woman for you, you cannot refuse. You must pass it on to my Zhou family as soon as possible. Zhou Xian originally thought it was a special request, but it turned out to be for this. No wonder Han ruled the world with filial piety. If there were no successors, it would be the greatest form of unfilial piety. Zhou Wu couldn't have a son himself, and his only hope lay with Zhou Xian. Now Zhou Xian is saying that he wants to rebel and compete for hegemony, and Zhou Wu is indeed worried. If Zhou Xian died, the Zhou family would really be extinct. Anyway, we must first let Zhou Xian give birth to a son to carry on the family line, so as not to cut off the incense of the Zhou family. Uncle, I won't refuse to take a concubine, but when it comes to getting married, I still hope to make my own decision. Getting married is different from taking a concubine. Taking a concubine can be done casually, but getting married is not done casually. It is important to match one's family. It's okay to take a concubine, as long as you can have a son, ha ha ha. Zhou Wu accepted Zhou Xian's conditions. After dawn, Zhou Wu had already packed his things. Zhou Xian and Dian Wei have also woken up and had breakfast. Zhou Wu placed the county captain's seal on the table, looked at it reluctantly, and then turned around to go out. After abandoning the official position like this, I am no longer an official, but a commoner. At that time, my older brother, who was also Zhou Xian's father, passed the imperial examination and quickly became the county magistrate. His future was limitless, but unfortunately he died too early. Zhou Wu was not elected as a filial and honest official, originally just a county official in Changxi. In the first year of Zhongping, with his military strength and noble status, he assisted Left Zhonglang in suppressing Huangfu Song in Changxi and made contributions. He first served as the county magistrate in Kunyang, Yingchuan, and later moved to be the county magistrate of Shui County. This journey has not been easy until now. Without those who have been promoted to filial piety, integrity, and talent, it is actually difficult to achieve promotion. As soon as we leave now, we will start from scratch. Zhou Wu sighed inwardly, holding a sword in his hand, walked out of the courtyard, flipped over and mounted his horse, and left the city with Zhou Xian and others. He has no children, only one wife, 3 concubines, 7 servants and maidservants, and his butler. Zhou Wu is a county lieutenant, although carrying 4 carriages, there are also 5 carriages carrying money, wealth, and supplies. The gatekeeper dared not ask any more questions and directly let them leave the city. Leaving Shui County, heading east through Yinping to Wuyuan, then turning north to Lanling in the East China Sea. Now they are in the East Sea territory of Xuzhou, and just a little inquiry reveals that Zang Ba is in Licheng. Licheng County is located to the north of Donghai Kingdom, bordering Langjia and not far from the governor's seat of Tan County. They continued their journey, passing through Xiangban from Lanling to Tan County, then heading north to Langjia, and then eastward to Licheng. Zhou Xian inquired all the way and, guided by the villagers, entered a village and arrived at the door of a large manor. Zang Ba lives in this mansion. Coincidentally, someone came out of the door and saw Zhou Xian and others. He looked at them in confusion for a while before coming forward and asking, "Who are you looking for?" Zhou Xian bowed his hands and smiled, "Let's find Zhang Xiangao in Mount Taishan." The man suddenly became alert and asked, "Are you Mount Taishan people? But your accent doesn't sound like it." "No, we are from Yingchuan, Yuzhou. We have temporarily taken refuge here because we have offended the government and heard of Zhang Xuangao's righteousness. You guys wait, I'll report it." The person hurriedly entered the room after finishing speaking. "Wen Cheng, will Zhang Xiangao accept us?" Zhou Wu asked. He has no understanding of Zang Ba at all and lacks confidence in his heart. "Definitely. Zhang Xiangao gathered scholars with righteousness, but when we heard of righteousness, how could he refuse?" Zhou Xian is very confident about this. Zang Ba is a man of great loyalty, so many Mount Taishan people are willing to follow him and regard him as handsome. Quickly, a large group of people surged out of the manor. The leader is nearly 8 feet tall, with a tiger back and a bare waist, and a short sword hanging from his waist, exuding a strong aura. However, judging by age, he is only 20.3 or 4 years old. Is he Zang Ba? Zhou Xian did not know the specific age of Zang Ba. Previously, it was speculated that he should not be 30 years old, but he did not expect him to be so young. "I am Zang Ba. I heard that you have offended the government and want to come here to avoid it, right?" Zang Ba arched his hand and asked Zhou Wu, appearing particularly generous. He thought Zhou Wucai was the leader of this group. Zhou Xian also arched his hand and replied, "Yes, my name is Zhou Xian, with the courtesy name Wen Cheng. This is my uncle Zhou Wu, with the courtesy name Zhong Wei. We are from Changxi, Yingchuan. Because I killed Changxi County Magistrate Zhang Kuang and wanted to avoid government pursuit, I also heard about Brother Xuangao's name. I wonder if Brother Xiangao will accept us." Zang Ba only realized after listening to Zhou Xian's words that he was the leader of this group. At this moment, I couldn't help but carefully scrutinize the other party. The person in front of me is only around 20 years old and is about the same height as myself. The other person should be a little taller. Although not as strong as oneself, it is not inferior and looks quite imposing. Especially in the other person's eyes, there is confidence and even a feeling of wanting to submit. The other party also had a sword hanging around their waist, indicating that they were also someone with military might. "Ha ha ha." Zang Ba laughed heartily and said, "Since Zhou Jun has heard of my name, he should know that Zang Ba never refuses to come. Since you came to kill the county magistrate, how could I push you out of the door? Everyone, please come inside." Zhou Xian was overjoyed and arched his hand again, saying, "Thank you very much, Brother Xiangao. Don't be too polite, I also want to know how you executed the county magistrate." Zang Ba held Zhou Xian's hand, while Zhou Wu and Dian Wei followed behind. Zhou Wu's wives, concubines, servants, and maids were also received by people from Zang Ba. Zhou Xian followed Zang Ba into the door and realized that the manor was even larger than what he saw outside. The front yard is very spacious, and at this time, some people are still practicing weapons, like a training ground. After passing through the front yard, we entered a large hall. There is a plaque hanging outside the hall door, with the words Ji Hall written on it. It seems that Zang Ba and these people have a strong sense of recklessness and loyalty. At the end of the Han dynasty, apart from the loyalty of Lu Guan and Zhang, it was probably Zang Ba who emphasized loyalty the most. He is not only loyal to his brothers, but also to outsiders who come to seek refuge. Chen Gong and Zhang Miao rebelled against Cao Cao, and Generals Su Shi and Mao Hui followed suit. Later, Lv Bu was defeated, and Su Shi and Mao Hui fled to defect to Zang Ba. Cao Cao asked Zang Ba to make friends, but he refused with righteousness. Cao Cao sighed and promised not to kill Su Shi and Mao Hui, but still used them as prefects. Entering the hall, Zhou Xian had originally asked his uncle to sit on top of him, but Zhou Wu insisted on having Zhou Xian sit on top. Zhou Wu understood that his nephew had the ambition to dominate, and he must show his authority in front of Zang Ba and others. Everyone sat down, and Dian Wei stood behind Zhou Xian with a long sword in his hand. This surprised Zang Ba and others, but they didn't say anything. For these people, such a scene is nothing. In their eyes, Dian Wei was just a strong man, that's all. You can scare people with a long sword, but you can't scare them. Zang Ba said to Zhou Xian, "Sun Guan, with the word Zhongtai, my best brother. When he robbed my father in Mount Taishan, Zhongtai did a great job. He was very kind to me." Zhou Xian bowed to Sun Guan as a gift. Sun Guan is about the same age as Zang Ba, standing about 7 feet and 5 inches tall. He is not too tall or strong, but he exudes a heroic aura. Sun Kong, with the courtesy name Bowen, is looking for the elder brother of Zhongtai at the Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Wu Dun, styled Zide. Li, styled Shui. Zang Ba introduced to Zhou Xian one by one, and Zhou Xian presented them with gifts one by one. Zhou Xian knew their names and even remembered their nicknames. I just don't know if these nicknames were given by themselves or by someone else. By the way, Zhou Jun, you said you killed the county magistrate for some unknown reason. Zang Ba asked. Zhou Xian replied, "The magistrate of Changxi County is named Zhang Kuang, and he wants to seize my 3,000 acres of farmland." What? Your family has 3,000 acres of farmland? Li couldn't believe it and interrupted Zhou Xian's words, asking urgently. No, my family has 8,000 acres of farmland. What? 8,000 acres. Li was once again surprised, even Zang Ba, Sun Guan and others appeared quite surprised. Zhou Xian also said, 8,000 acres of land belong to my father, and my uncle has another 6,000 acres of land. Wait, your family has so many fields. Is it because someone in your family is an official? At this moment, Sun Kong asked. He may have already noticed that Zhou Xian and Zhou Wu were both members of the noble family. Zhou Xian nodded slightly, and it was evident that Sun Kong was a scholar, and because he was older, he was more adept at judging people and events. Well, my grandfather used to be the governor of Changsha, my father used to be the magistrate of Suiyang County, and my uncle is now the county magistrate of Shui County. Zhou Wu then waved his hand and said, "It was a few days ago, not now. You have such a family background, how dare the county magistrate seize your family's land?" Sun Kong couldn't believe it. What county magistrate would provoke someone from such a family background? Zhou Xian remembered Zhang Kuang with an angry expression on his face. Because county magistrate Zhang Kuang is the cousin of Zhang Rang, a regular attendant in the court. Chapter 10. We go to rob the wealthy Mi family in Xuzhou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, for Zhang Rang, Wu Dun and Li seem to have no idea, and their expressions were calm. But it is obvious that Zang Ba and the Sun brothers are familiar with each other. All three of them showed incredible expressions on their faces. It's nothing to dare to kill a county magistrate, but to dare to kill the cousin of Zhang Rang, the attendant of Zhongchang, is an extraordinary courage. Who is Zhang Rang? That is the most trusted figure around the emperor, the "my lord," in his words. Zhang Ba thought he was brave enough to rescue his father on the mountain road, but now he looks at Zhou Xian and realizes that his actions are nothing at all. How dare you kill Zhang Rang's cousin? Zhou Xian said helplessly, if I don't kill him, he will kill me. He gave a brief account of what happened in Changxi. You killed 30 or 40 prison guards alone, and then broke into the Zhang family, which had over 100 guards, and killed Zhang Quan. Zhang Ba asked in surprise. He thought that even he might not be able to do it. Zhou Xian in front of him seemed to be a scholar, yet he also had such strong military power. Yes, but after I killed 4 or 5 or 10 of the guards of the Zhang family, the rest of them fled. In fact, Zhang Quan's family doesn't have as many guards, only 60 or 70 people. Zhou Xian deliberately increased the number of guards in order to demonstrate his abilities in front of Zhang Ba and others. But in reality, there were also 3 to 4 dozen guards killed by him. Sun Kong turned his head to look at Zhou Wu and sighed, you killed Zhang Rang's cousin. No wonder your uncle, as a county magistrate, wants to flee with you. Zhang Shuai, who is Zhang Rang? Ainli heard them talking all the time, feeling that Zhang Rang was very powerful, but he had never heard of it before, so he couldn't help but wonder. Zhang Ba smiled, and Sun Guan immediately replied, Luer, I usually ask you to know more about current affairs, but you always drink and fight with others, not even Zhang Rang. Let's put it this way, Zhang Rang is a person with more power than the prefect, the governor, and the third prince. He is also the most favored person of the emperor. Whoever he wants to die, he must die. More powerful than the prefect and the 3 dukes. So, will they bring in all the soldiers and horses from the states and counties when they come here? Ainli pointed his finger at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian felt that Ainli didn't seem to like him very much, perhaps because he appeared too powerful. Overshadowed all of them. Zhang Ba quickly said, no, even if the soldiers and horses from the states and counties come, they won't be afraid. If we can't fight, we can still run. Well, Sun Kong nodded along, I've long heard that the governor of Xuzhou, Ba only, hates the eunuchs in the court. They probably wouldn't have led troops here. Besides, they didn't know that Zhou Wenqing came here. Zhou Wu quickly said, not bad, no one outside of us knows about us coming here. Zhang Ba waved his hand and said, these are not important. Since you have come, you are guests. Ba never refuses guests. Wenqing, even if you stay here, just let me know if you need anything. Zhou Xian bowed to Zhang Ba again and said, thank you very much, brother Xiangao. We came here to hear about the righteous name of our elder brother. Now, as rumored, I am truly grateful. However, we will not come empty-handed. Here is 10 pounds of gold, please accept it, my elder brother. Zhou Xian picked up a heavy package placed beside him and placed it on the table in front of Zhang Ba. He untied the package, revealing brilliant and dazzling gold. How can this and this work? Zhang Ba stared at the gold, he really wanted to accept it, but he was afraid of damaging his reputation. He now has over 300 people and horses in his hands, and the cost of daily food is huge, but he doesn't have much money, which often leads to his subordinates going out to plunder nearby people, causing a lot of complaints. The county magistrate and Donghai prime minister sent people several times to persuade him to restrain his subordinates, but he had no way of restraining them. Once he truly restrained them, the people would disperse. If it weren't for his lack of money, he would now have more than 300 people, but 7, 8, or even 1,000. He really needs money. Brother Xiangao, I left Yingchuan too quickly and didn't bring any money with me. Otherwise, I could have taken out more. Please accept this little bit, my dear. If you don't accept it, we won't be able to live here with peace of mind. Zhou Xian wants to win people's hearts. If he can't even bear to spend so little money, then don't think about competing for the world. Moreover, these 10 pounds of gold are just the beginning, and there will be many places where money will be needed in the future. Fortunately, my uncle brought a lot of money. Sun Kongdao said, Zang Shui, since Wen Cheng said that, if we don't accept it again, we won't be able to justify it. Haha, Zang Ba laughed heartily, okay, Wen Cheng is a refreshing person, so I won't be polite either. Brother Xiangao, on my way to Licheng, I heard that our people occasionally rob nearby people. Is that the case? Zhou Xian suddenly asked. Zang Ba, Sun Guan, and others couldn't help but be stunned, unable to understand why the other party was asking so directly. I have a strict order that prohibits looting of nearby people. Unfortunately, my brothers did not listen. To be honest with Lord Zhou, we do lack money and food. There are over 300 people here who have to eat and drink every day. Zang Ba has already agreed to accept the gold, and now it's nothing to say that he doesn't have money. Zhou Xian smiled slightly and said, Brother Xiangao, it's easy to handle a shortage of money and food. We don't have it, you can go borrow it. Borrow? From whom? Zang Ba and others looked at Zhou Xian in confusion, unsure of what he was thinking. Even Zhou Wu stared at Zhou Xian strangely, unable to understand his thoughts. If money and grain were so easy to borrow, there would be no bandits in the world. Zhou Chandao said, whoever has money will borrow it from anyone. The government. Are you asking us to rob the government warehouse? Before Zang Ba, Sun Guan, and others could speak out, Ainli blurted it out. Of course not. Zhou Xian shook his head, still maintaining a smile on his face. As far as I know, the wealth of the Mi family in Donghai is huge. He is even richer than the government and is the wealthiest family in Xuzhou. Chu County is so close, why don't we borrow some money and food from him? It's better to go and plunder those poor people. But Zang Ba hesitated and looked for Yuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. With his latent ideas, he could plunder the people or even the government, but he never thought of plundering these powerful and wealthy families, especially the wealthy Mi family. As for why, he never thought about it. Not only him, but also those yellow scarves who clamor for rebellion, dare to attack cities, kill officials, and kidnap the people, but dare not plunder aristocratic and wealthy families. Otherwise, if hundreds of thousands or even millions of yellow scarves pass by, like locusts passing through, any powerful family will be extinct. Will Mi be willing to lend us money and food? Zang Ba finally asked his doubts. He thought that what Zhou Xian said about borrowing was sincere borrowing, not plundering. Ainli's thoughts were opposite to his. At this moment, he appeared very excited and suddenly stood up, dancing and shouting loudly, Zang Shui, whether he wants it or not, as soon as we bring our men and horses, he won't let us grab it. With just a few brothers and more than 300 brothers, are you afraid we won't be able to grab money and food? Zhou Xian, I didn't expect you to be in Xuzhou, but you know so much about Xuzhou's affairs. I had thought about robbing the Mi family in Chu County before, but I was afraid my brothers wouldn't dare. Ha ha ha, you are truly someone who dares to kill the county magistrate. Not bad, Zang Shui, let's go rob the wealthy Mi family in Xuzhou. Wu Dun stood up and loudly supported him. Zhou Xian quickly said, hey, we're not robbing, we're borrowing. If he doesn't want to borrow, we'll consider robbing before it's too late. We'll have to show respect to our troops first. Ainli Dao said, whether it's borrowing or robbing, as long as he is willing to give us money and food, that's all. Zang Ba and Sun Guan were still hesitating and didn't speak. Sun Kongning pondered for a long time and looked up at Zhou Xian, saying, Wen Cheng must have confidence in borrowing money and food from the Mi family.